Welcome to day 4 of my 25 days of Christmas. Today we're going to be baking a Persimmon Bundt cake. So I actually have a glut of persimmons right now. I have a ton on my tree. We have a friend who just gave us a box of persimmons, and then of course I've got some that are very ripe. So when I make cake or smoothies or ice cream, I always like my persimmons really soft. Now, if you're eating a full persimmon, you can eat it when it's not so soft, but the softer it gets, the sweeter it is. So I actually have a video on persimmons. I'm going to link it above, but this is how I like them when I'm baking. So right now I'm going to go ahead and take all the pulp out of these. I'm going to set aside 1.5 cups of it for my bread, and the rest I'm going to use for my ice cream and smoothies. This is the perfect texture for puddings and ice cream and all that kind of stuff. This stuff is golden. I'm going to pour out 1.5 cups of persimmon, pureed persimmon. And the rest I'm going to use for my ice cream. So this is the persimmon I have for my cake. I've got quite a bit here for ice cream and smoothies. I'll show you how I'm going to process that tomorrow. And then I'm left with a whole compost bin full of skins, seeds, and tops, which will go into my compost pile a little later. All right, we're going to start off today with our wet ingredients. We're going to be adding 1 cup of water, 3/4 of a cup of oil, a lot of oil. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of a really good vanilla. I make my own. And then we're going to be adding our persimmon mixture. 1.5 cups of Persimmon Puree. Just mix all that up together. We're going to go ahead and add 1 tablespoon of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of nutmeg, 1/2 teaspoon of ground cloves, and 1/2 teaspoon of ginger. Mix those in real good. Then we're going to add our baking soda, 2 teaspoons. Then we're going to add our sugars. We have 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar and 3/4 of a cup of white sugar. Then we're going to be adding our flour, a little bit at a time. Now this cake, you're never going to get completely smooth because of the persimmons. All right, I want to wipe down the sides of the bowl. All right, now we're going to be adding 2 tablespoons of distilled white vinegar. And the reason we're adding this is because we're not adding eggs to this cake. You notice it's already starting to bubble up. This is going to be our leavening agent. We're going to go ahead and pour this into a prepared bundt pan. You want it greased and floured. But before I do that, I'm going to add my nuts. I like to do them by hand. I mean, I can do them in the KitchenAid, but it's really loud and I don't think it's good for the machine. All right, I've got 3/4 of a cup of walnuts that I'm going to add to mine. Oh, that smells so good. And just add your nuts in. So I'm going to add my bundt mix directly into my pan. I'm going to use my spatula to get all of that delicious bundt mix out of here. So we're going to put this in a preheated oven for approximately an hour. I usually, after about 35-40 minutes, I usually cover the top of it so it doesn't brown too much. And I'll bring you back as soon as it's done. So our bundt cake is all done, and all I'm going to do now is make a topping for it. A little bit of white frosting to put over it. So, you know, a light frosting for a bundt cake is very easy. You're just gonna put in some powdered sugar. You can use butter, cream cheese, you know, whatever it is that you like to use. I'm gonna add a little bit of vanilla to mine. Give it a little stir and just keep stirring it until you get it the consistency that you like. If it's too thick, add more milk. If it's too thin, add more powdered sugar. I have this little tiny whisk that I like to use when I am making things like frosting and that kind of thing. Just gets the butter whipped up and just makes it more like frosting. I'm just gonna set this aside until I'm ready to frost my cake. So my cake is still warm, but it's cooled off enough that I can put my frosting over it. So that is all I am going to do. I am going to put a little bit of frosting over this. I want it to kind of melt a little bit right on the cake. Looks beautiful. And I always just put a little pan right under it to catch some of the frosting. So the way it works when you put it on a little bit warm is it actually makes more of a glaze than it does you know, a heavy frosting. A lot of it kind of drips off, to be honest with you, but you know, it gives this wonderful sweet flavor to the top of it that just you can't really get unless you frost it, put some kind of frosting on it. So this is how I do my cakes. I like to do my bundt cakes like this. I like the presentation, and I also really like the flavor of having a nice glaze on my cake. Well, my persimmon bundt cake is completely cooled down, so we are gonna cut into it and have a little slice, and then I'm gonna prepare some off camera for a couple of friends and probably freeze the rest. This is a huge cake. So this is my bundt cake. This is how it came out. I just want to show you how easily this cuts. I'm just going to have a little sliver, but I did want to try it for you. Well, I mean, I've tried it many times. I want to try it on camera. Look at that. Oh my goodness. Does that ever look delicious? Look at that. All right, let's give our bundt cake a try. Oh my gosh. It's so moist. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing to my channel. Give me a like, a thumbs up, or ring the bell for future notifications, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.